Hi, it's Joanne Fedler here, author and writing mentor. I want to talk a little bit today about this concept of a unique writing voice. If you speak to any publisher and you ask them, what is it that aspiring authors need to have in order to secure a publisher, they will tell you uniformly that an aspiring author needs to have a unique writing voice. Now, I've been writing for a long time and I've been teaching writing for a long time, and this is one of those concepts that I focus on and I try to teach as well as I can, because it is a strange and difficult concept for somebody to try and access their unique writing voice. So what is our unique writing voice? Well, it is our personality on the page. It is our writing signature. It's like your writing fingerprint on the page. It is uniquely who you are. It's the way you express yourself. It is the language choices that you make. It is the descriptions that you use to see things. It's the way your language pulses with your sensibility and nobody else's. So it has a lot to do with the way in which you have used your craft, and learning the craft is a really important part of nailing your unique writing voice. But I don't think that that is even close to enough. The way that I teach a unique writing voice is that it is where your consciousness and your craft meet and they click together, they fit together. I think that writers spend too much time in our heads and we try to overthink things, and we think that if we learn how to do something, we'll be able to do it. That is definitely part of it, the effort and the practicing and the amount of time that we spend on our craft. But I think that if we don't actually use our intuition and the more embodied part of ourselves to try and access that unique writing voice, all we'll learn eventually is how to write good, clean sentences, which is good, but it's not our unique writing voice. So I'm going to now read 4 different examples of unique writing voices of famous writers. And if you can just listen to the way that they use language, the way that they describe things, you'll see that they are unique to each one of them. And this is ultimately what we are trying to achieve when we are looking for our unique writing voice. So I'm going to start with these are all actually 4 of my very favorite writers. I'll start with Anne Lamott's book Stitches. And this is how Anne Lamott writes. She says, any healthy, half-awake person is occasionally going to be pierced with a sense of the unfairness and the catastrophe of life for 95% of the people on this earth. However, if you reacted or cried or raised the subject at all, you were being a worrywart. I couldn't go to the dog pound to help pick out our family pets because of the dogs we left behind. I couldn't go to Disney movies because at the end the mother of the species was usually taken out to the back and shot. I'd cry. What a stick in the mud. This was the technical term delivered in a sharp, scolding voice, which further calmed and reassured the child. As far as I can recall, none of the adults in my life ever once remembered to say, some people have a thick skin and you don't. Your heart is really open and that is going to cause pain. But that is an appropriate response to this world. The cost is high, but the blessing of being compassionate is beyond your wildest dreams. However, you're not going to feel that a lot in 7th grade. Just hang on. I was raised in a family where none of us ever raised a voice, so there was no room to express feelings of rage or even unabashed joy, a little bashed joy here or there, or being mildly disgruntled. We children were little Marcel Marceaus, tiptoeing about in our invisible boxes. No one ever yelled in a bad marriage that lasted 27 years. My parents went cold and remote. They spoke in clipped phrases of erudite contempt for each other. And this is from Tom Robbins' book, Jitterbug Perfume. The beet is the most intense of vegetables. The radish, admittedly, is more feverish, but the fire of the radish is a cold fire, the fire of discontent, not of passion. Tomatoes are lusty enough, yet there runs through tomatoes an undercurrent of frivolity. Beets are deadly serious. Slavic peoples get their physical characteristics from potatoes, their smouldering inquietude from radishes, their seriousness from beets. The beet is the most melancholy vegetable, the one most willing to suffer. You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. That's Tom Robbins. And the next one I've got is Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses. They scarcely spoke all day. His father rode sitting forward slightly in the saddle, holding the reins in one hand about 2 inches above the saddle horn, so thin and frail, lost in his clothes, looking over the country with those sunken eyes as if the world out there had been altered or made suspect by what he'd seen of it elsewhere, as if he might never see it right again, or worse, did see it right at last, see it as it had always been, would forever be. The boy who rode on slightly before him sat on a horse, not only as if he'd been born to it, which he was, but as if were he begot by malice or mischance into some queer land where horses never were, he would have found them anyway, would have known that there was something missing for the world to be right, or he right in it, and would have set forth to wander wherever it was needed, for as long as it took until he came upon one, and he would have known that that was what he sought, and it would have been. So that's Cormac McCarthy, and you really need to be pretty skilled to use such long, amazingly controlled sentences. I mean, you can almost feel the reins that he has on those sentences as opposed to Anne Lamott's shorter, sharper sentences. And this is from Toni Morrison's book, Sula. Hannah simply refused to live without the attentions of a man, and after Recus's death had a steady sequence of lovers, mostly the husbands of her friends and neighbours. Her flirting was sweet, low, and guileless, without ever a pat of the hair, a rush to change clothes, or a quick application of paint. With no gesture whatsoever, she rippled with sex. In her same old print wraparound, barefoot in the summer, in the winter her feet in a man's leather slippers, with the backs flattened under her heels, she made men aware of her behind, her slim ankles, the dew-smooth skin, and the incredible length of neck. Then the smile eyes, the turn of the head, all so welcoming, light, and playful. Her voice trailed, dipped, and bowed. She gave a chord to the simplest words. Nobody, but nobody, could say, "Hey, sugar," like Hannah. When he heard it, the man tipped his hat down a little over his eyes, hoisted his trousers, and thought about the hollow place at the base of her neck. And all this without the slightest confusion about work and responsibilities, while Eva tested and argued with her men, leaving them feeling as though they had been in combat with a worthy, if amiable foe. Hannah rubbed no edges, made no demands, made the man feel as though he were complete and wonderful just as he was. He didn't need fixing, and so he relaxed and swooned in the Hannah light that shone on him simply because he was. If the man entered and Hannah was carrying a coal scuttle up from the basement, she handled it in such a way that it became a gesture of love. He made no move to help her with it simply because he wanted to see how her thighs looked when she bent to put it down, knowing that she wanted him to see them too. So these are the kinds of authentic writing voices we can aspire to and we can achieve. It's wonderful to read aloud writers that we love and to experiment by copying the styles that we love until we find our own unique writing voice. So if this has been helpful and if you would like some little bit more help, you can go to my website, www.joannefedler.com, and you can get a free gift, which is 21 tips on how to access your unique writing voice. So good luck, and I will see you next time.